All right, guys, you love home theater tours just like I do, but I know many of you at home do not have a dedicated home theater. And so you're always asking, Michael, can we see some other different types of home theaters in a different setup? And so this theater is absolutely incredible. So let's come on inside and let's take a look at this. Scott Newman, CEO of Audio Advice. We are here in one of your customers' homes, and this thing is gorgeous. I want to take my audience through this whole thing. You've got some incredible, not only products in here, great design choices, but just some really cool innovation as well.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, doing something like this is not just a traditional home theater room. Obviously poses incredible challenges, but also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So maybe we just walk in, like you get a sense, hopefully people on camera get a sense of how big this room is.
This is
so we're
massive.
talking about over 40 feet deep in terms of depth. It's over 20 feet wide in the front and even wider back here. So you can imagine, like, we designed all these things originally right in our home theater design tool.
Yeah.
And you can see when you design it, that works in a perfect rectangle. And then we have to build a custom design that we do full 3D rendering to show it exactly as modified from that rectangle.
Yeah.
But this room's pretty neat. Now, as you and I looked at this earlier, there's one thing that really stands out when people walk in this room. It's like, this is a projector room.
Right, where's the projector? We don't see it up on the ceiling.
The projector? You don't see it anywhere. And so when you think about a multi-purpose room like this, where you've got a bar in the back, you've got a billiard table here, poker table, you don't want to have a projector just hanging. You couldn't have put it all the way in the back.
Yep.
The throw distance from way back there is problematic. So we actually custom built this billiard lamp and hid the projector in it. And we were talking about before, not only have we hidden the projector in it, but you don't see any wires.
Right.
So this stuff I just love, right? Which is thinking about the design. Each of the rods that goes up that's holding it to the ceiling has got, one of them has a network cable coming to it.
Sure.
We've got 2 HDMI cables coming down. We've got power coming down. So a lot of cool stuff in that design. And it's a fully functional, obviously, lamp below it.
Absolutely, and it's gorgeous. It fits in the decor, but you got great functionality of it. And we were talking earlier, is this like a hush box? Because you hear the projectors, you hear the lamp, and the cool thing about the design of this, it's open on the top, so it's vented, but then you've got acoustic treatment on the ceiling, and so the sound is naturally kind of pushing it upward, and then it's getting absorbed in the ceiling. So just really well thought out. But you've had some challenges in this room, just like you guys have challenges in your space at home.
Yeah, that's right. And so the other cool thing when you think about this, and this is what I just go nuts thinking about design. Imagine right here, someone is back, we can walk back here, someone is sitting here, you got a Super Bowl party, and people are sitting at this bar, maybe people are talking back here, or they're playing pool. Here's the challenge. You've got to be able to see under the lamp. And have full sight. Now also notice we can see straight over the chairs.
Correct.
So none of this is by accident, right?
Love it.
All of the sight lines in the entire room are designed. The other thing you had to make sure when someone walked between the chairs and the billiard lamp, that the throw of the light would not hit someone's head, so the people watching the theater.
Right.
So there's just all these cool calculations.
So they can still be enjoying this, and they can still be watching sports, and it doesn't impede on either one.
That's right. And I think in a room like this, and as you said, like, a lot of viewers, most people don't have a dedicated room.
No.
But they want to get this incredible theater experience that you and I love so much. And so when you start thinking about, well, we want this to be up front, a full theater experience when you want it, but yet sometimes it's multi-purpose.
Yes.
And sometimes it's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got people up there and some back here. So anyways, you map all your sight lines, and then you map the throw distance going out to the screen. And it just becomes really, really cool when you're done on that.
And that's one thing that your team, now your software does that, but in this room you can't design that because it's not a rectangle, it's not a square. But that's where your team comes in and they think through this stuff. They're like, this is important because the average consumer, we're not thinking about that. We don't know that we need to worry about sight lines and make sure that this is above the heads up here. And so that just shows your level of expertise for you and your team.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, a handful of our designers, and we've designed some really, really cool stuff. And what happens, every time you do something in life, you pay what I call the stupid tax. The first time you do it, I paid lots of stupid taxes where I didn't think about this or didn't think about that. And usually that's why you go to professionals, is you're going to someone who's paid that stupid tax enough times that you avoid it. So maybe let's do this. Let's walk to the front of the room and talk a little bit about what's going on in the theater dedicated space. And we can cover the screen, and we've got up in here right now. This is an NZ9, soon to be an NZ900,
the new
which
one.
are actually being shown at Audio Device Live this weekend. So we've got the projector projecting up here. This is a 2.4 screen right now, and this is about 145-inch diagonal.
Okay.
It has vertical masking that drops down and then drops it somewhere about a 10-foot diagonal at 16 by 9. And we'll talk a little bit later about how we use the MadVR and the vertical masking to really achieve the end result that we want.
Well, I love it. So we've got this beautiful screen. You got a great projector. Maybe we jump to talking about some speakers.
Yeah, so this is a acoustically transparent screen, and the roof line runs diagonal behind this. So effectively, we've built a room behind it that we've treated so we don't have resonance in that room. And we have 3 big Bowers & Wilkins CT 8.2 speakers, which is, 3 big 8-inch drivers plus a silk dome tweeter. And these things have been placed perfectly and angled just right to cover in this space. Now, one of the interesting things that, and the tool, our free tool does this for people, but when we get into more design, we get into details like this. The tweeters, normally you're trying to get them, as you know, about ear height. These are running a little bit higher than ear height for 2 reasons. One, we're getting them a little bit more into the center of the screen. But we know the dispersion pattern will cause your mind to view hear them correctly here. But also we know this room's used a lot for people walking around. That it's not just sitting dedicated. And so what we didn't want was to have the tweeter real low. And then people are missing it when they're walking around. So we found sort of the
kind of a sweet spot.
That's right. So you've got the 3 up front, and then we've got in these faux columns, these are Bowers & Wilkins CT 8.4s, which uses the same driver, the same dome tweeter, but it's not as many drivers in it. And so what's interesting, it forms a system in here that's basically a 5-channel system in this part of it. And then we've got Atmos up in the ceiling. And these are the Cinema series for B&W. And these are angled in, as you know. These are not at a full 45-degree angle. So I think a lot of things, people get confused. They look at the Dolby spec and like it needs to be 45 degrees, unless you have a highly angled speaker. If you have a setup where there's really one main row, you'll bring them in closer to, say, 35 degrees. And our tool actually does that for you. You'll notice if you put in 1 row, there'll be more in. If it's 2 rows, they'll go out, and then 3 rows will be more.
Doing all the math for you.
It's doing all the math real time, including what historically was considered artistic adjustments by people that do this. Anyway, so the point is you can hear the Atmos way better. And so the rears are pulled in and the fronts are pulled in a little bit and creates a full Atmos theater in here. Now subs.
Oh yeah,
I know,
there's
Michael,
a few.
You love subs, so we should talk about them. Up front, this is transparent, acoustically transparent black material. We actually have built a sub array here. So there are 5 15-inch subs that run straight across here. Now, is it just because we love bass and we're trying to bring bass to consumers? It's more than that in this particular room. And if you think about Trinov, which has just launched something called waveform. The concept of waveforming is you would fill the front with subwoofers, and then you fill the back with subwoofers. And effectively what happens is, by having a line array in the front, you can sort of equalize across all chairs, which is the old way of doing it. By adding the ones in the back, it'll cancel them. Well, it turns out this room is so deep in the back that you have massive dissipation by the time it gets there, and by the time it reflects, it's almost gone. Consequently, we can achieve with a front array almost perfect bass across every single seat, just like as if we were using waveforms. This is really, really cool.
And not having 2 rows, it makes it easier. I mean, technically you've got some other rows here, but most of the time you probably have your guest right here in that primary listening position. That does make it easier when you don't have 2 or 3 rows.
That's right. And one thing I'll point out, because you were mentioning these other seats, when you design a room, and I know, a lot of people watch your channel and they're thinking about building a theater, or maybe they've got one, want to upgrade it. Yeah. You don't see any wires on the floor here.
Yeah.
And I commonly will see when someone brings us in and says, hey, I built a theater 5 years ago and some company did it, we want to upgrade. There's no electrical outlets below. So you can get away with one electrical outlet below those four, but you really needed to think through an outlet below each of these other chairs in here.
Sure.
So there's some interesting little design elements like that. The other one that you and I were talking about as we walked in here originally, you'll see this is all windows out to a golf course here. And on the other side, you're talking about just gorgeous wood paneling. This has two challenges. One, you can't put a speaker there, and you can't put a speaker in the window.
Correct.
Unless you're going to deal with the aesthetics. And the other challenge is you don't have acoustic paneling.
Right, yeah, sure.
Now, what happens is you do this interesting calculations, and you say, okay, how do we solve this if the homeowner does not want to put absorptive material? Because obviously
and most
that's
people
reflective.
don't want to do that, and especially in a living room setup, because this really looks a lot like a living room. It's beautifully decor. My wife wouldn't let me put anything on here.
So that's exactly this situation. So what happens is you do two or three things. You make sure you've got thicker carpet, which we've got here.
Yeah.
Then we are angling the speakers. So if you looked at the front left and right, they're slightly angled in such that the dispersion pattern avoids the wall and the glass.
Smart.
Right? And they're just barely crossed, so it creates a perfect position for these and protects from that. And then if you look at the ceiling, what happens is all along the diagonal is acoustic paneling.
Okay.
And that helps tremendously. And then we have a mixture in the center of absorptive and diffusive panels, again, all in this sort of gorgeous uniform look. And then we're also, we're sort of really into paint colors too. How do you do paint colors? Yeah. And so you'll notice there is actually, a paint color on the wall, and it's contrasted with a darker paint color in the ceiling. Yeah. So that's sort of cool, and then obviously ties in the carpet as well.
So the good thing about that, so again, those of you watching, you're thinking, man, how do I get my wife on board with this? How can I have a great sounding room, but still be able to add, some acoustic treatment? There's some creative ways that you can accomplish both. You can have some challenges, hard surfaces on the side walls, but I intentionally started this video off in the hallway. The hallway has a completely different sound. It's very echoey. There's no acoustic treatment out there. But as soon as you walk in this room, this place is massive. Completely different sound. And that's because of the level of acoustic treatment in this room.
Yeah, and I think another thing, you and I were talking about Anthem. Yeah. I think you've been playing with the Anthem AVM 70, which is a terrific, terrific piece. So this room has an AVM 90 in it. And, you and I were talking about before, but I made a video on how do you run Arc Genesis, which is its room calibration. And I actually did this room myself. Okay. And I don't do most of the rooms we do. We have a team of people. In this particular room, I did it. And Arc Genesis is so good that you can take a room like this where, someone watching your videos, like there's no way I can get away with a wood wall here and glass there. And it's just shocking how impressive. I mean, it sounds like a high performance dedicated home theater. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing it allows you to do, in this case where we've got all those subs, the AVM 90 has 4 independent sub outs. Yeah. So I'll actually show you something. We'll walk over here to the cabinets where we've got the different components. Oh, nice. I'm going to slide under here. So these are 4 sub amps. Okay. These are the SA1000, so it's 1,000-watt sub amps. Well, you said, Scott, I got 5 subs. Right. So one of these subs is handling 2 subs. Okay. And then you think about which of those 2 subs do you do, and those are in positions where their frequency response in the room is virtually identical. Okay. And so anyways, we are running all 4 of these to run them, and the AVM 90 controls them each by themselves, independently. And then we're running our Atmos from here. This is interesting about Kaleidescape. Yeah. So you got like older technology paired with newer technology? I was hoping you were going to ask that. Most rooms you and I go into, you don't see what you see here. Correct. This is a very specific kind of Kaleidescape that has the old, what's called Premier system with the new system. And the reason that matters is this Blu-ray player, the homeowner loves concerts. Right. And they've got like Blu-rays of concerts that you can't get on Kaleidescape.
Right.
These are like, older, your Meatloafs and your all sorts of stuff. And so what this allows it to do is when you browse the Kaleidescape, it can see everything that was originally imported through a Blu-ray.
Okay.
Plus everything new bought.
Right, so it's merging those two systems.
Merging, you see them all as one screen.
Okay.
And then when it plays it, you don't know the difference. It automatically switches.
Right.
Now, over time, what's happening is Kaleidescape's getting all of these things. So in a matter of years, you won't need it like this. It'll all be played. Now, you can see these smaller ones here, but you and I both were here at Audio Device Live. The launch is having Audio Device Live of the new Strato V.
Yeah, Strato V. I did a video on my channel. Mine was more like an overview. Hey guys, I'm excited about this. This is cool. Y'all said it's expensive. Kaleidescape has listened. They want to provide something that is much more affordable, so they brought out the Strato V. And then Scott, you and your team, actually you were the one that did it, took a deep dive into like really what this thing's about and what it offers.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I feel like our videos are so complimentary. Because you just cover the full layman's, here's what's going on, this is what they're doing.
I keep it simple for you guys.
And I like to deep dive. I like to just go into a bunch of technical. But the Strato V, and there's really two things going on here simultaneously at Audio Device Live. They're being announced. I think it's the combination of the two that's a 1 + 1 = 3.
Right, yeah.
So many people wanted Kaleidescape because as you and I have told people, it's bit for bit, like you've got the Blu-ray, but it's on a server, it's a platform to easily download. But this Strato V can download this stuff in 10 minutes. Right. It's got Dolby Vision in it, and it's at a much lower price point. Yeah. A lot of people just couldn't afford the Kaleidescape.
It's half the price of a Kaleidescape system by the time you do, the Strato C and then a server. That's half that cost, and this is an all-in-one player. Yes, it only holds 10, but here's my challenge to people, and I've asked you guys, how many movies are you going to watch in one day? 2? Maybe 3 if you're doing like a trilogy of something? None of us are ever going to watch 10 movies. So I'm just thinking, okay, watch your 3 movies for that day. If you want to watch 3 more tomorrow and you need to re-download something, then, and you're talking 10 minutes, go make your popcorn, get your drink, go play a game of billiards back here, while it's doing that. And so that's super, super convenient. And then pairing that up with the new MadVR.
The new MadVR.
Oh my gosh.
So if we look down here, what you'll see is the AVM 90 we talked about and the MadVR below it. So the MadVR, and again, this is the same thing. You and I both have really talked about MadVR a lot. And maybe we'll just pause and just touch on it briefly. When people ask me, what does the MadVR do? If I just simplified it down, I would say 2 things that matter to most people. And you and I know it does 100 more than that.
A bunch more.
But the 2 simplest ones are, 1, it makes your picture look better because it has massive processing power and incredible software than any normal television or projector could do.
Right.
So all your motion capability, all your colors, your tone mapping of your HDR, all of it makes it look better. So that's bucket 1. And then bucket 2 is when you have a screen like we have here, which is a 2.4 screen. Yeah. If you're watching a 2.0 Netflix movie, 16:9, it is able to automatically handle everything. So you don't need to keep pushing a button to change zoom in and out.
So that's good for my wife because Jessica would never know how to fill the screen. It frustrates me. I'll walk in and it's not filled if it's on like a projector that you don't have a MadVR system. So then you got to go into the remote, change this. It just helps streamline that process for your family so they can just come in, hit one button, turn everything on. All they got to do is adjust the volume at that point.
That's right.
And figure out what movie they want to watch.
And the MadVR, similar to Kaleidescape, was one of those things that people that built the Ultimate Theaters, everyone's been getting in the past couple of years. Like it's been the hot product.
Sure.
But it was not affordable for everybody.
No.
And so simultaneously...
in 2 weeks.
and both of these are going to be debuted at Audio Device Live here. You've got a dramatically less expensive MadVR and a dramatically less expensive Kaleidescape that's now opened up to a lot more people.
Yeah, Scott, I think we are in a great time for home theater enthusiasts.
Yeah. So why don't we do this? Why don't we sit down, we'll turn it on, and we'll go through a couple things, looking at the remote. Okay, so we're looking at the Control 4 panel here. I always think this is a great way to look at what's happening in the theater and how it's designed because the Control 4 buttons tell you what's capable. Sure. So you'll see the homeowner can just hit watch here and you'll see Kaleidescape, Apple TV, Roku, and PS5 are their sources. Right. So if the homeowner pushes Kaleidescape, automatically all the capabilities in the Kaleidescape come up. You'll notice one thing we do in our programming as well. If you see the color buttons here, we actually use these color buttons to control the light in the room. Okay. So if you hit the first color button, that brings a certain brightness in the room. Then they can bring it down a little more.
Sure.
And so forth in the room and control it without having to go anywhere else.
Right. They just have to know that they're not labeled, so they would have to just know.
The colors go, actually, great question. It goes from left to right.
Okay.
On the left side is the brightest in the room.
Right.
And as you work to the right, gets you all the way to theater dark mode.
See, that makes sense.
So then you'll see this is sort of the full control here. Once it's turned on, you can control the Kaleidescape up top.
Right.
Plus, you now see all the buttons.
Sure.
So let's move to lights. We have highlights, mid lights, low lights, which match with those colors.
Okay.
Plus fireplace control capability. Now the Find Remote's sort of funny. What do you think that's for? There's a stick remote in this room as well, like a little stick remote.
I'm thinking it's kind of weird because we're
have
using that remote.
So actually, there's two remotes that are used in this home. Okay. There's this panel, which enables the homeowner to see cameras, so if anyone comes to the home,
sure.
or if the intercom, they want to intercom to another room or someone's intercoming in. But there's also a stick remote for just watching a theater, and that's it. And if that thing falls down into a chair or ends up under a chair,
and
the homeowner hits Find Remote and it starts beeping and they can find it. And then speaker lights is just to show off the speakers behind the screen.
What I call them reveal lights.
Reveal lights, yeah.
That's super cool.
Then audio modes, and this is a great time to talk about the capabilities of Anthem.
Sure.
So Anthem, as you know, allows you to set multiple profiles.
Right.
And so the way this is set up is the homeowner also loves listening to music in this room. So if the homeowner was listening to music, he would go push stereo sound, and it would play just those front left and right speakers.
Right.
And it's just like having your own 2-channel listening room.
Okay.
If you're listening to music, you can change to Dolby Music.
Right.
If it's a party, a lot of times people will use all speakers, which is basically left moving all the way down the left side of the room and right all the way down the right side.
Right.
Now, 3-hour no noise, we're going to come back to that in a second. And 15-second and 1-hour screen saves are just cool little features.
And these are custom buttons because of the Control 4. You can have those buttons do whatever you want, whatever sequence you want.
That's right. Now, the shades is interesting. In this room, we wanted the capability for the homeowner to be able to see the golf course when they're watching sports or maybe golf or watching Super Bowl. So there are what we call light shades. Those are see-through shades. So it gives enough protection that the homeowner can watch the television. Yeah. And then, so if you hit light shades, this will open the light shades. Okay. And then there's dark shades, which are the blackouts for when it's theater room. So you hit that, it darkens it. Then if we go to Movie 2.4 and 16:9, what this really relates to is the setup of the screen. So 99% of the time, it's in, and I'm going to close these shades so it doesn't add a bunch of light in the room, but you'll see this says that it's on 2.4, and that means that the panels are not down. And so most of the time, the family watches everything in 2.4, and the MadVR stretches it to
it's
fit.
still on the screen. Yep.
But when the homeowner wants to watch a true 16:9 and they want to watch it in the original intended format, literally all they need to do is hit this. It will then do two things. It tells the MadVR we're now going to a 16:9 position and tells the projector, and it brings down the panels on the sides, and we're now in full 16:9 position.
Right, and I could see that really viable for somebody that loves to watch sports. You don't necessarily sometimes want to stretch the sides on that. They want that 16:9 aspect ratio, and that's a good thing. This is flexible. You can make it however you want.
That's exactly right. And the PS5 one is interesting. So this does two things. It moves you into the 16:9 position, but it has to do one other interesting thing. Because the MadVR is in the system, MadVR has this unbelievable processing capability to make everything look great, but that takes about 200 milliseconds.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore gamer, 200 milliseconds is not going to happen.
You're getting dead on that game.
That's
you're
right.
Dying.
So when they hit this button, the MadVR has a bypass, which means, and let's say you're designing your own theater right now and you're thinking about maybe one day doing a MadVR, run 2 HDMI cables to your projector.
Correct. 100%.
Now, I will tell you, MadVR is working on a low latency software upgrade that will go into all of their, all the MVs. However, to get it all the way down to what you want if you're a hardcore gamer, run 2 HDMI cables, it'll bypass it, it'll go into the second input of your projector, and by hitting that button, it'll change it. So theater fireplace, you hit this button, and the fireplace in the theater comes on.
Nice.
And then thermostats, you might imagine if you hit that, you can change the temperature in the room. This is my favorite. What do you think? Ice off 3 hours. Man.
Ice off for 3 hours. I mean, the only thing you have in this room that has ice is maybe like a fridge or freezer.
Yeah, so in this room, there's an ice maker,
Okay.
a beer cooler, and a refrigerator in the back in the bar. And what do all those do all the time?
They make noise.
They make noise, that's right. You hear the ice
Noise.
dropping and everything else.
Yep.
So when the homeowner's going to watch a movie, the homeowner hits the button and it turns everything off for 3 hours. And then turns it back on because inevitably they'll forget, it'll go and there'll be no ice one day.
Yep.
So anyways, this is a great way, I think, to show someone what can be done in a theater.
All right, Scott, we're standing in front of this artwork, but I have a feeling there's more to just artwork. We've got 3 gorgeous kind of paintings and like I said, artwork, but is there more functionality here as well?
Yeah, there certainly is. So the homeowner was really into Broadway.
Yeah.
And so you'll see like there's an actress, there's a whole scene from Broadway, plus this. But these are actually photos that are printed on acoustically transparent fabric and they're acoustic treatments. So it's actually part of the design of the acoustic treatment of the room, which is really, you might imagine this would be a hard surface otherwise.
Correct. And that's great because again, those of you building your home theater, maybe the wife wants something, she doesn't want big, just square rectangular panels on the wall. They just seem kind of clunky, but this gives some design, it gives style. Maybe you've got your favorite artist, maybe you got a beach that you went in Maui on a vacation. And so again, we're wanting to create a space that our family and our friends can come in, really feel at home and just get an incredible experience with that. But another thing I noticed is there's great lighting right here too. And one thing I thought was pretty interesting, earlier today we're going through and you're changing lighting, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I noticed the light was actually changing color temperature.
That's exactly right. So
what's going on there?
I think lighting is probably one of the least understood parts of home theater design today. And it's such a big part because most people, if you just have a light switch, either all your lights are on, you got to turn it off, and there's no lighting. And so we do a lot of work in thinking about how to use lighting. So in this case, what you'll see here, these are all DMF lights throughout the entire room. And there's a few things going on. So for example, here, all these under the soffit, these are called cross-lit lights, meaning that this light is pointing across here, that light's pointing across there, and it lights this really gorgeous, but also it keeps all the light off the screen. Then, as you said, and I'll just bring it down so everyone at home can see, these are sitting at a little over 3,000 Kelvin right now.
Right, so they're kind of white.
Which is what you want if you got a Super Bowl party.
Yep.
But if you're going to watch a movie, you don't want the distraction of a brighter light. And so what you'll see is, as I bring them down, they not only dim, they change color temperature.
So now these are getting warmer.
Yeah, we're now like 2,500 Kelvin, dropping all the way below. So this kind of light is not distracting. And the same thing exists all throughout the room, including the ceiling lights. And we have a wall wash, for instance, above us. And you'll see that blocks the light from going onto the screen, but also you'll see same thing. It changes color temperature and makes it really dim.
I love it. So a lot of practicality there, because one thing that you mentioned is when we have the lights all the way up, especially here, you've got accent lighting. You don't want that shining on your screen. And I know some of us like to have the room pitch black, but again, this is a different kind of vibe. These are people that are out playing pool. You're rarely, unless you're just sitting down for movie time, is this going to be just pitch black. You know, it's not
what's
going to be
really
a void
cool,
most of
actually,
the time.
this is really neat. If we look up above the soffit, you see how we're bouncing the light off of the acoustic panels?
Yeah.
What'll happen is, the reason we make it pitch black is because we don't want light bleeding onto the screen. When you use ambient reflective lighting, so when this room is in the full theater mode, there's actually light bouncing off the screen, but you don't see, when you're looking at the screen, there's nothing bleeding on the screen at all. And so there's a real design behind a soffit like this and reflective lighting like that.
Well, Scott, once again, you've created just an incredible home theater. You and your team working together with a homeowner to create a space that's really unique, that's not a dedicated theater room, but one that friends and family, and I can just tell this place is designed for entertaining folks and just having a fun time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, you know a lot of our guys, and our team just loves doing this stuff. Honestly, I get to sort of be at the end of it and do this kind of thing, but we just love it. And this design is, we're just crazy about it and enjoying it, and it's fun to walk through and show you.
Yeah. So we're doing more videos like this here on the channel, so be on the lookout for those. We've got several homes that we're going to visit. We've got some videos that we're going to be making at Audio Vice Live. And so I just love what you guys do. It's a great asset to you, the consumer, and the home theater community. So Scott, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Michael.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We got more like it coming in the near future, so be on the lookout for those. Hope you have an incredible week. God bless, and we'll catch you in the next video.